Hey guys, welcome to another wonderful episode of Hunkered Down Seth, our 52nd edition. Today I have a great guy, one of my good friends down here in Long Beach comedy. Uh, we, from the moment we met, we really hit it off because we're both Midwestern natives. And currently he's writing a book, Mr. Patrick Bucher. Patrick, I love you. I miss you. Thanks for being here.
Okay, Seth, good to hear from you.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. You're one of the few comics that makes me chortle.
Yeah, and that's actually a huge compliment I take. I, I am in awe of you saying that.
I take that back. I meant in real life.
Oh,
Uh, I can't really discern you from your act. You're one of those funny guys.
oh, yeah, it's too bad. I try to keep like the stage persona and the personal stuff separate. I mean, because when I'm off stage, I try just to get to know people, know how they're doing. Really concern myself with their life. Make sure they're doing well. And on stage, I'm just
Are,
like
are,
dick joke, dick joke, dick joke. But I'm glad I make you laugh.
well, you do. We never have those conversations. We just seem to, you'll come down the World Cup and it's on.
Yeah,
Anything that we talk about is always funny, it seems.
yeah. The way I see it, I'm just a positive guy. I just try to make people happy and make sure they're doing well. Because
Well, you do a good job. How have you been? Have you been doing Zoom comedy?
yes, I do this regular Wednesday night Zoom. Well, I say Wednesday night, it's 4 p.m., but it's an Eastern comedy, Eastern Central Time, Eastern, whatever the
Oh,
time
awesome.
zone. Yeah, it's called Whiskey and
Tell me about that.
it's called Whiskey and Cheese. It's a bunch of it's started because my good friend, probably one. If I were to rank friends, she would be on top because I did officiate her wedding and we were very close uh, up in Seattle. When I say close, very close platonically, assure you, I assure the viewers, absolutely nothing happened more than a hug. And anyway, she started this open mic. She lives in Cleveland, and she asked if I wanted to do it, and I was like, "Yeah, let's get on this Zoom train."
I have no idea what that's about. What do you do?
I try to.
Not that I don't know what Zoom is, but how do you do comedy with Zoom? Tell me.
It's. Thanks for interviewing me on my show. It's
Hey, this has been a bloodless coup. It is now my podcast.
all
It
right.
is Ask Patrick Anything podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Today our guest is Seth Lanier, a good friend of mine. We're both from the Midwest, and
All right. Thanks. But to answer your question about Zoom open mics, it's actually kind of weird because you're the same volume as the audience, and when they laugh, the audio gets all mumbled and jumbled up, so it's really tough for me. You know,
you mean people who's watching it? There's a big audience.
there's, I mean, we attract maybe a dozen people. You
Well,
know,
that's pretty cool.
yeah, but it's tough because it's just because you've seen my act. I like doing crowd work. I always love talking to people, just making sure they're having a good time. So this is just me going up. My secret is just to be immediately pissed off as soon as I start, and usually that, and I have a couple, stock lines around. So, but it's really a tough. I was never one of those comics who could go up and tell a 3 to 4 minute story. Personally, I think if there's not a punchline within the first 3 sentences, you're doing it wrong. So, but
Yeah, you like that. You like that quick reaction.
yeah, because to be honest, I get bored up there. It's just talking up there. It's like I rather just get it done. I just go up there and do it.
Yes, yes, I concur.
Yeah. But but the Zoom shows,
I'm giving,
they are fun though. I will say that. Just if anything, it's good in this time to have an outlet to tell jokes and get the immediate response too.
and my last question in regards to Zoom is it a lineup? And then you would go up just like you would physically, and then they go to your, then you have a camera trained on you, and you go after another comic kind of a deal. Is that what it is? And how much time do you do?
Yeah, the one I
Again, it's my podcast that I've let, another bloodless coup.
yeah. Well, it is a lineup. You get 5 minutes and you go up there. Some people have done PowerPoint. There was this one couple yesterday who did this improv thing where they would uh, someone would recommend a genre and they would look it up in Netflix. Like kung fu was the genre they looked up, and they said change one word of each movie and we'll describe that new movie. And it was pretty interesting. Uh,
Yeah.
so, because
Kung, Kung Fu probably, it got changed to what? Kong?
no, no, not just the you put kung fu and all the kung fu movies would pop up, and
Oh.
one was Bloodsport, and I asked them about Bloodspork, so that was a good one.
Right.
Uh,
Well, I haven't done any of the Zooms, Seth. I have not. I've just been in my head for the last 60, 70 days performing comedy.
yeah, have you reached out to people? I started this show just to keep myself sane and to reconnect with people. But have you reached out to anybody?
Well, just a few comics, just a few. But I went on Instagram recently and just posted a goofy picture of myself. I thought that would be I don't post much, period, Seth. But I thought if I did that, people will know I'm okay. Some people inquire, then that's kind of how I catch up with people. I don't really initiate too much of it, Seth. Because,
Yeah.
I'm selfish.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sort of insular too, but I'm forcing myself to do this just to for two reasons. One, just to see how everybody's doing, and two, to have a good base, like have a good in when people are starting things up. I'll say, hey, we talked, and now that things are returning back to normal, you want to get together and put me on your show, and they'll be like, yeah, sure. So it's doing this for entirely selfish show business reasons.
Well, good for you. Hey,
Yeah.
how many have you done?
This is number 52.
Are you serious?
Yep. In fact, my
What
last
do you do? Two or three a week?
yeah, I try to do 3 a week. My last show was with April Lotshaw, so I'm looking forward.
See, and where can I? Well, go on. I'm sorry, Seth.
Oh,
I'm gonna start again.
sure. They're all
Uh,
released on
I,
YouTube.
I saw. Yeah, that's what I saw. You're doing it on YouTube, correct?
Yep. So
52 of them up on YouTube. Is it a paid channel or what?
nope, entirely free. I'm not getting any money yet. The goal is to just get money by any means
So,
necessary.
so I'm your 52nd best friend.
You just happen to be the 52nd person I asked. To be honest, you're probably top
Okay.
24.
Fair enough, Seth.
Yeah. Although
Yeah.
technically you're the 51st person I asked, because for my 50th episode spectacular, I re-interviewed the first person I talked to.
Oh, who's that? Who's that?
Oh, a wonderful comic out of the Bay Area named Malika Stockholm. She's one of my favorite people, one of my best friends. I absolutely have nothing but love and respect for her.
Awesome, Seth. You have these many concentric circles of comedy with Milwaukee, Seattle, the Bay Area, and now L.A. Orange County, right?
Yeah, it's weird. I also got a Chicago contingent of people, a bunch of New York City friends who moved there. It's comedy. People start one place and then they just branch out. So
Yeah, well, it's a really good thing to do because I think the podcast is a good thing, and yeah,
Yeah.
all good. Everything comedy.
Yeah. In fact, there was this comic named Lahini who I met in Seattle. He said the best thing. He says, "I love doing comedy because I have a best friend wherever I go," and that's just the comic
Yeah,
lifestyle.
yeah. I would have to say, Seth, getting back to that earlier question, have I reached out? It would be about 50-50, because I do probably half my mics that, well, I did until all this in New York. I just went out there 4 times a year and really, banged out 40 or so mics.
Yeah,
And then when I come back here, not so many. But anyhow, yeah, so I got about half and half base too, most of them up in New York.
definitely.
But yeah, it can only help.
Yeah, I want to ask you about this book you're writing. What's the idea for it, and what's your motivation? And just tell me everything about it.
Okay, Seth, thanks. I've been, the comedy, a lot of people know I started a long time ago and I stopped and started and whatnot. Now I'm back last 5 years having fun and trying to find my point of view and all that and really trying to be uncensored but hopefully still funny because I was a really clean comic. But having said all that, after a while, I mean, other than the social thing and the enjoyment of getting laughs, I really, I wouldn't refuse it, but I just really have no desire to try monetize it unless it kind of happens organically, with the stand up.
Yeah,
And so then I thought, God, I thought I'd never be this person, but then I thought, well, maybe I could do something. I want to impact people somehow, preferably in comedy. But I had this job after the Great Recession of 2009 to 2011. I know the recession was all over the board, but I got laid off in early 2009. And I was in the finance world, blah, 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 not really a good fit, but that's what I did because, I was faking it till whatever.
yep,
So anyhow, fast forward, I get 2 years of unemployment. I'm building my little tile business that I'm actually able to live off now. I mean, I got to work a lot, but I'm fortunate. But anyhow, back then, I got, after 2011, my unemployment ended, and there were just no more jobs, Seth. And
yeah,
so, anyhow, I ended up selling family cases of meat door to door. It was flash froze meat. And it was kind of a hoodwink sales deal. Not so much that it was illegal or anything, but like most sales, it's always a kind of a hook, what you're trying to do. Anyhow, I did this stuff door to door for, God, all the way up till 2 years ago. But anyhow, it morphed into where I went and worked with. I worked for a national company for about 2.5 years. I learned how to sell meat. Then I went with another guy that the quotas weren't so stringent, and I worked for him. And then I knocked him off, and I did it for myself.
yeah,
But anyhow, I just want to write a book on my experiences of selling door to door at my advanced age and selling big giant boxes of meat. And all the things that came along with it. I mean, door to door, Gonzo style selling. That I think. Have
jeez.
you ever met anybody that's lived door to door as a salesman, Seth?
Um, I mean, I've had some jobs that for example, there was I worked for this place called America Income Life, which is a complete pyramid scheme, total scam. But
Right.
what they did was they sold life insurance, and I thought they were legit because basically the first 2 weeks was them getting me my insurance license. So I'm like, oh, this is nice. And then the more I get into it, they were one of those places all commission. You just have to read this 9-page script, and it's really one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen. These guys who hustle and like it was not fun because it was one of these things where this guy walked in and basically explained what the current policy, and it was this old couple that we were talking to, and he basically told them well, with your current policy, you're going to have to work 3 more years than you planned. So you got to sign for this. And I was just like, I am not doing this ever again. I walked out. And what got me was I just stopped showing up, and nobody from the company called. No one was like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? They, they were just so used to this. And
Right.
I actually went to an interview with another place a couple months ago, and so they were named something completely different. But when they said fill this out, when I got there, it had the American Income Life papers. I was like, "Are you the insurance guys?" And they're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "No, not interested. Take care," and just walked out.
Now, was that a door to door or was that a telephone, the phone calling job?
It was a door to door. Basically, they scammed people. This is what they did. They offered like child emergency kits. Like when I say that, it's just a piece of information that just has a description, recent paper, just something to have. So in case something happens to the kid, they could just give it to the police and say this is all the information. They would hand that out to people, but first they would. It was a timeshare thing.
That's
First
like
they'd have to sit through the whole spiel.
so it was door to door.
Yeah, complete
Did
scam.
you set these appointments up or did you just show up at their door?
You would set them up. They would call you. You would literally have to have your own business phone that you would pay for out of pocket, and they would call you on that, and it was just
Yeah, that's
ugh.
it sounds very painful, Seth. But this was actually stuff that we had to go door to door. I mean, just every day, and try sell, 4 to a minimum of 4 cases of meat with 60 pieces of steak in it. And we also had chicken and pork and seafood, which was part of the game. But steaks was the name of the game. You go around and you knock on their door and you say, "Hey, man, sorry to bother you. I just had a cancellation down the street, or tell them anything, give them the reason why you're at the door, and then say, hey, do you guys like, choice steaks for like $3 a cut, and that was the game. You just look for interest and a lot of doors slamming and all that kind of stuff. But I actually got pretty good at it and really learned how to. You'll never know what's inside people's head, but I got to be pretty good where I could kind of. I got better and better at my sales as kind of vetting people, see where their interest is at, and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So it was really a good experience. Seth. It's something I would have never ever want to do again. I've been bitten by dogs, and then we would usually work in really dicey neighborhoods because a lot of times it would be Hispanics, Asians, and all that would buy off a truck, right? It was
Yeah.
just kind of culturally acceptable. So you would just go into these kind of dicey areas and then look for a pearl within that dicey area, and that was the game. But I mean, I sold to all sorts of people. It was an evolution. But anyhow, other than that, I've seen Mark Cuban, the guy that owns
Shark Tank.
the Dallas. What's the Dallas?
Oh, the
What's the
Mavericks.
Dallas? The Mavericks. And he's on Shark Tank and all that. And he's like one of the few guys I've ever read that used to do door to door and stuff. It's just kind of a lost art, and I did that for a long time, and I was quite successful at it. And so I decided, comedy is really hard to monetize. There's no what's the word? Entry barrier. Anybody in the world could be a stand-up if you
Yeah.
go up there and have enough nerve to say something. So that's wide open. Very hard to monetize that. And so it's not so much I want to monetize it, which I do, but I want to try to impact people, and I want to form a public speech or be a professional speaker on this. But when I tried to start working on that, Seth, it's very hard. I went to one storytelling thing about a year ago. I was never really familiar with storytelling. Have you ever been to a storytelling?
Yeah. In fact, a really good friend of mine up in Seattle is one of those like he not only does storytelling himself, he teaches people how to storytell.
Well, that's quite an art. So I went up there to L.A. and it was called the Moth,
Oh,
you know, Moth Dark.
yeah.
I'm so sorry about this. My work phone.
It's all right.
So anyhow, I was going to try and shape some sort of 20-minute, 30-minute, you know, public speech and try to monetize that. And it was just so difficult to figure out how to do it. And then I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this in a book form and just go with it. Just anything that comes to my mind. And then I'll get back to maybe trying to make it into a 20-minute size, powerful sales message that I can go around and make call up some sales managers. Hey man, I'll come over and rally up your troops for
Oh,
X amount of money. You know what I'm saying? So that would kind
yeah.
of yes.
Yeah, to put some. Oh, hold on. Sorry, call was interrupted. I apologize. As you could tell, the past couple minutes was a bit muddled. Oh, what the hell? There we go. Sorry about that. Hello?
Here.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Um, I actually have some idea for you. Something that some people who I know up in Seattle did this. If you go to community colleges, they usually have like those teacher thing, like people teaching stuff.
Uh huh.
Just the communities. Anybody could take a class. It could be a week or two, or I've seen 8 week stuff. And usually they're like
Right.
flower decorating. There's some improv classes and quilting, or I did a voiceover class once, but it turned out to be one of those things where it's like you walk in, they teach you the basics, and then they say, "Oh, we also got an 8 week course. You're just paying for this 1 day course." So they're trying to sell the
Right.
8 week course for $1,200 instead of the 1 day course for 75. But but yeah, it would be a good idea if you just lay it out, create a syllabus. You could actually have community college, classes.
Right.
So, uh,
So I got thinking about that, and then so that's kind of where I've been at. I've been kind of playing with it. I don't work at it a lot, but I try to write every day. Like 20 minutes, a half hour on the story, because Seth, anything that I'm going to try and tackle, it's got to be in bite sizes. I find anything overwhelming and arduous if it's arduous.
yeah.
I don't want it to be. I want it to be, my friend, and so I'm just kind of playing around with it, and so I'm going to do it. I always wanted to have a book, but it's really hard. You got to have a story to tell, and this is really kind of if I get it on paper, they had a lot of interesting things happen, and I think it will help other salespeople and just people in general
Oh, definitely.
about how to make a living, that kind of stuff.
How to hustle, how to really, you know, be a self motivator. That
Yeah,
would be a good hook.
totally, totally. At least, yeah, hustle. That's for sure.
Definitely.
So that's been fun, but as for the comedy, that's just been kind of on hold. I still write things down on a notebook that I find funny and all that,
Yeah.
but I'm ready to go back. But I just canceled my June trip to New York because things are not even close to being ready yet. Restaurant and bar wise, that's where all the mics are at.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of seeing where everything's going. Have you heard anything, Seth? Anybody
Um,
other than anybody doing mics anywhere? I don't think so. Other than this guy Joe Bando, right?
yeah, I know Brianna. She does her Instagram live open mics on Fridays. So,
Yeah.
but other than that, I think it's all Zoom I actually got invited to do a Zoom open mic from Japan, but Yeah, it's one of those things where I'd have to stay up till 4 a.m. just to sign up, and I'm not going to do that.
No.
No. But rounding third, and to bring this whole show home, you are a quite accomplished road comic. You've done the road pretty often. What was the craziest show that you've ever been a part of or you have ever seen?
Oh, that's a great question, Seth. Well, as an audience member or performing or anything.
Either one. Let me give you an example. Our mutual friend Kermit Apio. Um, I asked him
Yes.
this exact same question, and he said that he and two other comics did a Renaissance fair, and they shared a tent with a falconer. So that's the type of crazy I want to hear about. Those are the fun, crazy
Oh,
stories.
oh, 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 okay, let me see if I can think of one. Other than, the worst thing that can happen to a comic, and this has happened to me on several occasions, that I've been fired for not being funny. I mean, is there anything worse than that?
No.
And that was part of my, going on the road. I did 10 cruise ships, and every one of them, uh, were hard, but I got whacked from a couple of those, and then finally I just stopped trying to get on cruises, and then I was in Pensacola one time, and I used to go down to these clubs called Coconuts. Have you ever heard of those, Seth? Coconut chain down there? They're like a sea room.
I have. I
Anyway,
know a couple guys who do the Florida circuit.
yeah, they're on a St. Pete Beach down there. But anyhow, back in the day, they would let, I was probably even a week feature at the time, but they'd let you come down and headline their small rooms down there because they would only pay like $50 a show.
Yeah.
So I can honestly say that I did at least one. Well, I did I did a couple of these headlining shows for them, and I got fired from two of them. One in Pensacola. It was a Friday Saturday gig, and I just wasn't ready. Seth. It was a real military town, and I wasn't very funny off and running. And then they just started heckling me. They got really bad the
Yeah.
next day. I had a girl I met on an earlier uh, string of one-nighters preceding this that came down to visit me in Pensacola. Now, this is years ago. This is like in the 90s. And so I spend the whole day with her, and I come back to my hotel room. You remember the old hotel rooms that have that red light on the phone for a message?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
come in there, and I get a message from whoever booked it at the time. I can't remember, just saying your services are no longer needed. And that's very hurtful. So that's happened a couple of times, Pensacola, and those cruise ships and stuff like that. For just having shit go crazy.
Yeah.
One time I was out in New York doing this comedy, and I went to go support a show with a friend of mine, and a comic, she said something offensive. An audience member came up and hit the comic. It was actually a brawl. I've never seen a comedy brawl before.
I am I am lucky enough not to be a part of. Not I've
Yeah,
been.
I mean, sometimes you read about that, but that's the first time I actually saw people fighting. A comic, a headliner,
Yeah,
because he offended his wife. Or,
I've been threatened, but when I was managing a club, but never as a comic. Because usually when I'm on stage, I always try to just get along with everybody, and if someone doesn't I've been put through the ringer to the point where I know how to handle a heckler. I know if someone's not having a good time, I could just, isolate them and and if it gets too bad, make sure that they're out of the show. But never, it,
yeah, this guy, he was really wasted, and the guy was making fun of his wife or his significant other, and you know how guys are when
yeah,
that stuff happens.
yeah,
And so, the comic wasn't malicious, but the guy was so drunk he took it wrong, and it was a melee, and it's really it ruined the whole show, obviously.
yeah. Hey, if you got paid, it was still a great gig.
Yeah, but Other than that, I've had pretty good luck. I've never had, well, God, I've had some crazy gigs too, but not as crazy as Kermit's.
No, that for right now that's first place, but there's plenty of other comics to talk to.
I got one. I got one,
Ooh.
Kermit. I was doing a road gig for Pat Wilson out of Seattle.
Oh, nice, Pat.
Yeah, and I was doing a one-nighter in Bozeman, Montana, and the place is still there. Well, maybe it shut down after this pandemic, but it was called the Cat's Paw, and it has been there for years. So anyhow, I was there the night. This is how long ago it was. Remember the show Cheers?
Yeah.
It was the final show of Cheers that night. Like a Thursday, and they offered free beer for watching the show down at this redneck bar. And that one got a little unruly too, but no fisticuffs. But people were hammered and yelling, and not a good idea to have comedy with the last airing of Cheers.
Yeah, it got to the point I remember up in Seattle, when I was starting around 2006 up there. Everybody just gave up doing shows during Super Bowl Sunday, you know, just because it was like
Right.
it was like the last night of Cheers. It's like the only people who are gonna come out are either the ones who really hate sports or the ones who just are depressed alcoholics.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant about that Bozeman one. It wasn't like there was a large crowd to watch Cheers. It was people that didn't give a shit about Cheers.
Yeah.
But it was free beer. Those people.
Oh, nice. All right, well, let's wrap that up. Patrick, you want to have a final message for the viewing audience?
No, just I'm glad to see you're doing all that stuff, Seth. Keep up the good work. Thanks for having me on, and hope to see you when these mics come back.
Oh, I look forward to seeing you as well. Let's get the Royal Cup back up and operating.
Sounds good, Seth. Thank you so much.
No problem. Take care, and thanks for watching Hunkered Down with Seth.